12-02 is consideration and approval of emergency ordinance to adopt Chapter 1, general provisions of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Brookhaven.
Which we have in front of us.
You have those in front of you that you will hear from on a number of occasions. This is basically, it's the one that has everybody's definitions on it, and sets out the ways that we set up the city and how we set up our ordinances. It also has your general penalties for violations and here, and it talks about the transition period, and it outlines how things that are not affected by this code section.
I'd like to point out that the remaining 6 or 7 items where we dealing with their ordinances, they're not resolutions, so we make a motion, make sure you say ordinance rather than resolution. Anybody have a motion on this number 3?
Move to approve ordinance 2012-12-02, approval of an emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 1 general provisions for Code of Ordinances for the City of Brookhaven.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this DeKalb County Chapter 1, or is this Brookhaven Chapter 1?
I think it's what we said before, the DeKalb County, where council is subject to the commissions, things that relate to us, those are the terms being changed. So it's the same other than the name.
Chapter 1 is all DeKalb County.
Okay. Thank you. There's more discussion. Okay, all in favor of adopting resolution ordinance 2012-12-02, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Clerk, please enter the minutes that this ordinance is passed. Number 4.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a consideration and approval of emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 2 administration for the Code of Ordinances for the City of Brookhaven. This is the administration. It outlines, it follows a charter in setting up your meetings. It also says that you'll follow the open meeting rules. It speaks document retention, that we will follow state law on document retention. It sets up your fees and how the fees are collected for that. It talks about reimbursement and travel for the mayor and council. It talks about the city manager establishing a personnel manual and setting up job descriptions, benefits, and gives them the authorization to do it. It also sets up departments that you may establish and do if you desire to. You do not have to. You'll see their administration, finance, community development, transportation, public works, police, fire and EMS, parks and recreation, and building. These are basically the building blocks of any city in terms of departments. Ultimately, your city manager will structure these or parts of these as you desire. I would assume that the fire and EMS will ultimately be supported by DeKalb County under an intergovernmental agreement, but you still have we're still talking about what may be established. It talks about the rights to contract, setting up your boards and commissions, the compositions of those boards and how they're set up. It talks about terms of the board members and additional guidelines for the planning commission and additional guidelines for a design review board. It talks about setting up advisory committees to the city if you desire to do that, and that you can set compensation if you desire to. It sets up the procedures for the boards, how they would run in terms of procedure and quorum. Also sets up city finances and fiscal year, finance director, the tax collector. Those things will all ultimately be handled by your finance director. You have an opportunity under your charter to combine all these different things into one entity, which generally speaking is what I assume that the city manager and the department heads will put together and get to a place where they want to be on it. Speaks to auditing, purchasing agent. Talks talks about how you dispose of property, and as well as real property. It talks about the prepaid wireless transaction charges. And I built in a proposed code of ethics that I had sent out to the mayor and council, independent of this document several days ago. This is one that will work to be a city of ethics, to have this document. This is a document that's been developed that if you see where we are in this, it has a hearing officer. And what it attempts to do in this environment is to depoliticize these kinds of cases. And it puts it to a third-party hearing officer who's a professional, who has an understanding of both the law and the facts. Generally speaking, you'll find a municipal attorney to do this kind of work as the hearing officer. And we have it set up where we would get somebody from not close by here, someone who would not have any really knowledge or interest in any of these kinds of the issues, to make sure you have the most neutral and detached person. And it has several places in there where there are out clauses, basically, where you make decisions. There's a decision tree in there that looks to see if there's what level of evidence there is, whether it's justified to go forward, and it backs it out on different levels. But it takes it out of the hands of the mayor and council in very many ways. I suggest it to you because I think that it's a well thought out document that tries to minimize politics in any kind of ethics environment.
We received all of y'all received that policy, correct? A couple days ago. So, yeah, so it's something obviously we want to become a certified city of ethics.
Yes. So that's generally what the emergency ordinance for administration covers.
Any discussion? Is there a motion on the floor for 2012-1203?
I'll
All right. Is there a second?
I move to accept ordinance 2012-12-03 for approval of emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 2, Administration for Code of Ordinances for the City of Brookhaven.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to clarify, this is a code that we could change or modify. But this allows us to have something in place immediately.
That's correct, council member. As I've stated previously, these are the basic sort of middle of the road pieces of code. As much as possible, they reflect DeKalb County because we want to carry over stability to the persons who have gone to DeKalb County and have a certain level of expectation of what the law is. And so we try to, as much as we can, carry that over so we can keep that stability and people know what to expect here, but giving you the opportunity to customize this as you go along to make it what you want it to be and reflect the values that Brookhaven has.
And you've used a term, a certified city of ethics. What exactly is that?
There's a program through the Georgia Municipal Association of Certified Cities of Ethics. If they adopt certain ethics ordinances and build an ethical methodology in how they run, they be a certified city of ethics, and this ordinance supports that.
All right. Any more questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting this ordinance, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Madam Clerk, please enter the minutes that this ordinance is passed. Number 5.
Mayor and Council, this is ordinance 2012-1204. This is consideration and approval of emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 4 alcoholic beverages for Code of Ordinances for the City of Brookhaven. Mayor and Council, this is basically the DeKalb County ordinance, but there are two changes in that. One, the first change is that we have gone to a 50-50 instead of a 60-40 for balance for alcohol and food sales for Sundays. DeKalb County had a 60-40, it had 60% food sales to 40% alcohol. It's not many cities will do that. It's hard enough for a restaurant to in an environment to try to get the food sales up on Sunday afternoon when there's football to try to match the 50-50. The 50-50 is allowed by state law, and so we put it in there at a 50-50 amount. The other thing is that we have, although the codification has not taken place in DeKalb County for the buying of alcohol in grocery stores and buying alcohol at package stores on Sunday, it has passed. It's just not been codified, and so we brought the ordinance from DeKalb County up to date that matches the reality that's on the ground right now. So it does contemplate the sales of packaged alcohol and beer and wine on Sundays.
Those are the only two changes from the DeKalb code.
That is correct, Mayor.
All right. Is there a motion on the floor? 2012-12-04.
I'll move that we pass ordinance number 2012-12-04 for an emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 4 alcoholic beverages Code of Ordinances for the City of Brookhaven.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a quick question for you, Bill. The update on it, where package stores or supermarkets are able to sell alcoholic beverages, is that going to affect?
It's in effect right now.
So it stays in effect?
Yes.
It stays in effect. All that had happened is DeKalb County their last update on their codes is July. They actually passed this in May, but when we went to their codes, we pulled their codes out of Unicode. And Unicode lets us go in and unlock their codes so we can amend and modify them as we determine we want to. It had not been changed in the municipal code, so we went ahead and did the update.
Just one last thing I have to do with you.
That's right.
Okay, more discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor of 2012-12-04, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the minutes of this ordinance is passed. Number 6.
Mayor and Council, this is ordinance 2012-12-05. This is consideration and approval of an emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 7, Buildings and Building Regulations for Code of Ordinances for the City of Brookhaven. Mayor and Council, this particular code is actually the Johns Creek Code. This is simply the adoption of all the required building codes that are required by the state of Georgia that you adopt. I would want to review when you make an approval of whoever you're going to have for Public Works. At that point in time, I think that it would be appropriate for us to go and talk to them about where they want to go in terms of these building codes.
We also want to talk to the citizens and have some board and some kind of public hearing. Builders, homeowners, everybody that live in the city to see what we can review and update and change if we need to.
Absolutely. At this point in time, though, I wanted to have this placeholder in place because of the nature of the transition, and it's a much shorter, more succinct code than DeKalb has right now, and I think it would do the city good to have the input of the Public Works Department and as the citizens as we go forward and have a more modern code in Public Works. So we just put this as a placeholder at this point in time. If in the future you desire to adopt the DeKalb code, I can turn that around in about an afternoon.
Okay.
adopt ordinance 2012-12-05, emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 7 buildings and building regulations for code of ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Question for Bill. DeKalb County has accepted a huge number of permits that they're in the process of reviewing. Do they have to change their review standards if we adopt this, or how does that?
Councilmember, what I anticipate that we will do is part of our, the answer is no, from the start.
Is that because they're continuing under the code in which those permits came in?
The discussion that I have had so far is that the things that they have already started in terms of they've taken the money for the buildings and permitting and the inspections, that they would take to a conclusion. And we can either do that by simply allowing that to go forward and take full faith and credit for all of their inspections and their permitting, and they can continue to do the COs, or we can do it by intergovernmental agreement. But the discussion that I've had with DeKalb County is they think that that is a good resolution to how to finish out all their permits, is that they finish them through, and with the approval of council at some point in the future, that would be what we would propose to do. Part of that is because of the scheme that is in place for permitting in the new privatized cities. Is generally speaking, the process is that the fee goes to the private contractor to do not only the front end of the work, but the inspection end of the work at the other end to get to the CO. And because the county has already taken control, and we don't have a process that we can send somebody out and and make it overhead of the city to pay for it, it's the simplest way to finish out these various different projects that are in place now that the county's already taken the money to do.
I would suggest, or I'm not sure what the proper word is, I would ask that the council provide a letter to DeKalb County based on meetings I've had with them, and Joe and I had as recent as Friday, with the Director of Engineering. I believe that if word gets back to them that we've changed the code to something other, there's going to be a lot of confusion, so I think we need to provide them specific direction that they can continue to review permits in the city of Brookhaven based on the DeKalb County Code, because knowing the personality of some of the directors down there, they're going to stop until somebody tells them that they can continue. So if you would please send them a letter, so even before the IGAs are negotiated, they need something that authorizes them to continue to review the permits.
I'll do that in the morning.
Please do.
And I'll speak to them as well. And if they have a lot of anxiety about it, I'll probably on Wednesday night bring you back to the DeKalb County Code, and we can adopt that. It's simply a placeholder to protect us as we go through.
I understand, but yeah, just let them know, because they asked us specifically to provide that for them. So if since we are changing codes, make it clear to them that they can continue with what they know.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I have a question, quick question about this. I just noticed this says chapter 7. What happened to chapters 5 and 6 of this?
The chapters that we're adopting tonight are the chapters that you need to get started.
Time specific chapters.
That's
Okay.
right.
We'll go
There
back
will
to
be an
chapters.
infill of a lot of different things as we go along. These are the things that are, if you look at what you've passed about what your departments are, there's a lot of the essential pieces that you're passing in tonight that matches up with your essential department that have impact on how we transition from the county sovereign to the city sovereign.
Bill, how many times have you gone through this exact process?
This is my 7th.
Okay. All right. Just to set everybody at ease a little bit. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting 2012-12-05, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk, please enter the minutes. Ordinance 7.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is ordinance 2012-12-06. This is an emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 9 Municipal Court of the Code of Ordinances. This basically just simply follows your charter, and it outlines the methodology that how the court's set up.
Okay. The motion on the floor?
I so move. Council approve ordinance 2012-12-06, approval of an emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 9 Municipal Court of Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
Okay. Any discussion? Or is there a second? Sorry.
Second.
Any discussion?
You folks could make any part of the say. Councilmember Howard?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
You said. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of ordinance number 2012-12-06, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk, please enter the minutes. Ordinance is passed. Number 8.
Number 8, Mayor and Council, is ordinance 2012-12-07. This is consideration and approval of emergency orders to adopt and approve Chapter 10 elections for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor?
I'll move to adopt ordinance 2012-12-07, approval of an emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 10 elections for the Code of Ordinances for the city of Brookhaven.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adopting ordinance 2012-12-07, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk, please enter into the minutes that that ordinance is passed. Number 9.
Mayor and Council, this is ordinance ordinance 2012-1208, consideration and approval of emergency ordinance to adopt and approve Chapter 15, licenses, permits, and miscellaneous business regulations. Mayor and Council, this is with one exception, identical to the DeKalb County Code. And that exception is